Great experiences build great leaders. Great leaders build great teams. This is Building Great Sales Teams.
All right, welcome back to the Building Great Sales Teams podcast, y'all. I've got a special one for y'all today. On the podcast today, I have Josh Fonger. He's the CEO of WTS Enterprises, which they are business consultants. He's a coach, a speaker, and what he does is he's taking entrepreneurs from working in the business to working on the business. We know this all too well. It's a huge problem with small business owners. He's personally coached over 1,000 business owners from startups all the way to $500 million companies. Josh, welcome to the show, brother.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. So one of the questions that I had for you, because I remember the moment where I was like, systems. Oh, this is it. This is the difference between, solopreneurs and real businesses is systems, right? Do you kind of remember when that was for you?
Well, it was when I read Sam Carpenter's book. I mean, for those watching the video, this book, Work the System, really changed the way I saw business and the way I did my consulting. So before I met Sam, I was a business consultant, and I was flying around helping flooring store owners. And so these are typically family businesses, sometimes generational, and they have between 5 and 50 employees. They're doing all the work themselves, and I would fly in there and then help them with their inside sales and outside sales and budgeting and forecasting and merchandising and pricing and all sorts of stuff. And I feel like I made some big improvements with these companies, and so did they. And then I would leave, and then 6 months later I'd come back, or a year later I'd come back, and they would be in the exact same spot. And I was like, well, didn't we solve all these problems? And some of their employees would leave, or they would chase another strategy or another rabbit trail, and they would lose the all the ideas and all of the focus that we had during our time together. And then I realized after reading Sam's book that they never actually documented those best practices, the infrastructure that they built, so they could never repeat it. They could never be consistent. They could never measure it. They could never translate it. They could never hire based on it. I mean, you name it, all that wisdom that was put into place through just sheer effort never stuck. And that's when I realized that I was missing a piece to my consulting, and that's what the work system method is all about.
It makes a lot of sense, because if you have any turnover whatsoever, immediately the knowledge just left with that person that left in the company, right?
Yeah, and some of my earlier clients, I mean, I've been doing this with Sam over 10 years now. They would call us in because the operations manager just got pregnant and left, or just died. Like someone just died. Like, wait, we lost our operations manager. They had a heart attack. We have no idea what they were doing. Our company's in trouble. We need to actually document what's in everyone's brains here, because we have no infrastructure actually. Or a top salesperson leaves. I mean, there's so much liability and risk that business owners have, and they don't even realize it until sometimes it's too late.
I couldn't agree more. It's funny. Right around the time that you discovered Sam's book is actually when I owner financed the company that I have now, which originally was a sales org turned into a consulting company. And I always talk about, like, every entrepreneur has that thing that makes them different, or that they're really good at, and then they delegate everything else, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, it was systems. For whatever reason, I had intuition to build systems early on, because I knew that I was in a high turnover business. I was in door to door. And so I knew I had to build out these just concrete, amazing systems. And now we consult other companies on how to do that within their sales program, And so, but no, I love it. I love that you were able to see somebody else's work and say, hey, there's something really amazing here. You know what I mean? And a lot of people are like, well, I need to create my own thing, but you were like, no, this is it. And so can you kind of walk me through the body of work that WTS is, and kind of maybe some of the guiding principles?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So Sam Carpenter wrote this book, 2008. It's now in its 4th edition. It's called Work the System. Mm-hmm. So first off, I'd recommend anybody checking that book out first. The company started off purely as a book that Sam wrote to his employees. So Sam has a business called Centratel based out of Bend, Oregon. And so I was living there at the time, and the company still is number one in its industry to this day. And what he had done is he figured out a way to take his 100-hour work weeks and translate them down to 2 hours of work a month, right? And it was through having a mindset shift, which is basically, instead of seeing your world as, just these fires you need to put out and constantly being in emergency mode, to realizing that actually your world and your business is made up of these separate systems. And if you isolate them into discrete, simple tasks, you're able to more easily decipher the best way to do them, document them, and then delegate them. And so once Sam had this kind of epiphany, which he details in his book, he went about and started to document the systems of his business as well as the systems strategy, which he calls a strategic objective, and then the principles that guide how decisions and the culture and the flow of work should actually happen. And so the book details how to actually document these things, and then what does it look like to implement this into your business. And that's essentially what we do as a coaching and consulting company. We have our live event coming up in a few weeks, and so we do an annual event.
Oh,
And
nice.
ultimately, what we are trying to do is help as many business owners as we can. And what we thought was that like millions of business owners would just come right to us and we'd start working with them. But actually, there's a certain type of business owner that actually works with us, and it's
Mhm.
one that's willing to actually give up the way they're currently doing business, which means that they kind of enjoy being the hero. They enjoy always being there. They enjoy having all the pressure. They love to always be involved in everything, every decision. Like, they love the control of always being there.
Mhm.
We can't work with those people.
Yeah.
That they actually enjoy the stress. They enjoy it all riding on their shoulders. And there's a certain kind of personality type that just likes that. And so we work with business owners that either don't want that. They do want to be there for their family. They do want to build a company that can scale. They do want to build a future that is sellable, like they can actually sell their business someday. They want to build that value, that asset. Those
Mhm.
people we work with, and then people who've had like a really bad experience, like they've had a health issue or they've had a business scare where something tragic happened, and then they sign up and they say, you know what, Josh, I need to work with you because that happened 6 months ago or 3 months ago, and I need to do something different. Like it's ruined my marriage or whatever it might be. And
Yeah.
so we get a lot of people who they need help getting unstuck. But it's surprising. Most small business owners, they, even if it's not working, they just like doing it the way they're doing it. And
Mhm.
so they're totally content hitting the plateau of where they're currently at, whether that's 3 employees or 30 employees, but somewhere in that range, they're
Yeah.
gonna plateau on how much work they can put out, how many hours they can work, how
Mhm.
much they can control everybody, how they do everything. And once they've maxed that out, they basically capped their earning potential. They've capped their future and what they're going to be able to do. And most people, that's just what they do. They stay there until their company goes out of business, which most do, or they retire. But that's their cap. And so we don't work with those folks. That's basically it.
That's fair enough. I mean, you only have to do it so many times before you realize, hey, I've got to identify these people early on and
Mhm.
make sure I don't work with them moving forward because it's not worth the money sometimes.
Yeah, well, you just say like, do you have? I mean, whenever I work with somebody new, I
Mhm.
do a lot of coaching and consulting. I always ask like, what would they actually do if they had more time? Because the people that
Mhm.
I work with, they get a lot of time back, and what would I
Yeah.
do if I had more money? And some of them make a lot more money, and if they don't actually have something they want to do with that extra time and money,
Mhm.
that they're not going to put forth the effort to shift the way they do business, and it's not going to interest them. They're going to chase the next shiny object. But if they do have bigger plans and bigger visions, this is the only way to get there. Like, you have to put these best practices into place. You actually do have to document the systems of your business. It's the difference between a small struggling business and a large successful business, is that the small struggling one doesn't have any of their systems documented. And so if you're wanting to make that shift, you do have to actually have some bigger visions for your family, for your health, for things that you want to do in your life. And I would say most people, they're satisfied getting by with enough for themselves or their family, and they kind of treat their business as a W-2 job anyways. And so
Yeah.
yeah, those people probably aren't listening to your podcast, but again, most people don't listen to podcasts. Yeah, most people are happy with status quo.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. What was the event that y'all are putting on in a couple weeks? I want to make sure we shout that out.
Yeah, so we do it every year. It's the WTS annual event. Sam speaks, I speak. We have some of our previous clients come there and speak as well about this shift, and then we walk through the simple methodology. We just go through here's the fundamentals, and we make sure that everyone has a chance to work on each of the fundamentals, gets a chance to discuss it with other people, other peers that are doing the same thing around the world. And I have certified consultants as well underneath me who know the methodology as well, and so they're there as trainers. And the main thing is we know this is not the most exciting topic in the world. I mean, most people have the newest advertising technique
Yeah.
or the newest gadget, and this is not the newest gadget. This is actually something that has worked, and this whole concept has worked for hundreds of years. So the concept is not new. It's actually being with people who are dedicated and focused to build a business the same way any franchise is built, right? And get these systems in place. And so we say that we're for serious entrepreneurs who are mature. That doesn't mean you need to be older, because I've got clients in their 20s and 30s,
Yeah.
but you need to be mature enough to realize
You're not it.
You're not it. The company's not you. And that there is some wisdom from just doing things the right way consistently, and not always chasing the next fad. Because this is not about chasing fads. It's about getting focused on just delivering consistent, great results to your customers. And it's about alignment. And you've got to slow down to align your strategy, your strategy, your assets, your sales, your marketing, your every aspect of your business needs to be inlined, systemized, and that's where things get really simple. They get really fast, and you can really expand and scale naturally without having to be so much caught in constantly dramatic innovations, right?
Yeah.
So that's the key.
Yeah, we see it happen all the time over the past couple of years, whether it be crypto or, the new funnel closing technique or AI now, it's like they just love putting it out there. Like, if you're not using AI, you're going to get left behind. Left behind what? Saying, like, obviously there's ways to utilize it, but it's one of those things, like, you really have to check it against your core values and make sure that hey, this is what I want to represent. So for me, like, a lot of people in my space are using it for their social media posting. But if I did that, I feel like I'd lose my voice. So we use it for things like commenting and sharing the podcast on questions and stuff like that in Facebook groups. So we utilize it. It's just not gonna be everything. And I think that's what people want. They want this thing that's gonna be everything for their business. And they end up realizing, hey, at the end of the day, it's my business that makes the difference. You know what I mean? That it's going to make that incremental increase, whether it be 10,000, 100,000, whatever the case is, or in the efficiency or happiness of my people.
Definitely, yeah. And a lot of at least, and I'm kind of biased to this because I've been working from home for, gosh, I want to say like 16 or 17 years now, and I've work with a lot of online entrepreneurs and internet entrepreneurs, and I've seen so much come and go that if you're not actually delivering value to your clients in a way that's transformative, you're not going to last. I mean, you might have some technique, some AI hack, something that temporarily gives you a boost, usually in vanity metrics, not actually real value. As soon as everyone catches on, and the barrier to entry with all these new technologies very low, the value of what you just did is essentially nothing, because it's just ubiquitous. Everyone can do it now. And so I tried to get out of that game with regards to delivering different hacks or different technologies
Hmm.
because they go outdated so quickly. And really, it's about, for me, what does my client need and what is the customized solution we can deliver? And then how do they, build their own secret sauce and document it in a way that actually is going to consistently produce results and, yeah, be aware of the new technologies, leverage them when they make sense. Um, but a lot of times the new technologies just add more complexities, more consultants, and more rework. So I'm a big proponent of first understanding, in an analog way, the best way to deliver value to your customers,
Hmm.
and then getting faster at doing that with real people, when possible, and then integrating technologies that are going to actually stick around. And for some businesses, if you've got an Amazon business, you probably have to use a lot more technology a lot faster, just because of
Right.
your might be selling commodities. But in the consulting world, like what you and I do, so much of it comes down to real human to human, interaction, strategy, coaching, understanding barriers, whether they're personal or professional or team related, and then making sure that you can overcome those barriers or those traditions that are built within a culture.
Hmm.
And it's not so much here's the technology stack you need, and then your problems are solved, because they're not.
I couldn't agree more. I've gotten plenty of technology stacks that I've purchased, and it's like, man, if you don't know how to execute on those, it gets real difficult real fast.
Yeah, and if you have an amazing thing to sell, it doesn't even matter if the technology is any good, right? And I early on in my consulting days, I had several mentors helping me out
Hmm.
as a consultant, and one of them, I mean, he made at least $500,000 a year, and he had no website. And this is like 7 years ago. He had no
Yeah.
website. He had no social media. He had no business card. He was just a really genuine guy. He was really smart, and
Hmm.
he would just listen, ask good questions, and then he'd say, "You know what? I can help you with that." And then he would just start helping them get a percentage of the increase.
Yeah.
Off to the races. Like, so simple, and people loved to work with him. And he didn't get stuck in, like, no one knew his name, no one knew his face.
Hmm.
He wasn't a celebrity, um, but just consistently being available and doing quality work. He didn't have a huge team. Now, of course, he didn't have a business he could sell. Like, there was no
Right.
entity there. But I was just like, wow. So you really can just deliver great value without having all of this extra vanity metrics that really play into the
Hmm.
world we now live in, which didn't exist 20 years ago,
Yeah.
right? And so, so sometimes what I'm doing with some of my current clients is actually dumbing down part of their selling processes, because I know that they've invested so much money and time in things that get eyeballs, but they've just forgotten to call leads. Just call them. Have you tried calling them? Like, well, we've instant messaged them, and then we've tried to find them on Facebook, and then we've tried to do this and that. I said, well, have you called them though? Like, no, we haven't done that. Well, maybe they just want some help. I don't know. I mean, so sometimes people will lose. They'll, because selling's hard. I mean, about selling. It's face
Yeah.
to face. You get rejection. People don't necessarily like it. That makes them feel
Hmm.
uncomfortable, and so you can feel like you're doing a lot of work without actually getting a chance to do any work. And so I always try to push people towards the systems that are going to do that
Hmm.
first, before you get lost in technology.
No, you're right. Everybody wants to sell virtually and sell in the DMs or sell through a funnel
Mhm.
and be able to automate. One of my friends posted this the other day about passive income,
Mhm.
and that passive income only really comes after a ridiculous body of work. You know what I'm saying? Whether you're building a real estate portfolio or you're building a business, true passive income doesn't happen until you build.
Yep.
And so
Mhm.
all these guys pushing passive income off of nothing, you know what I'm saying, where it's like you just put the money in and it goes. We know in general business principles that that's not true,
Yep.
unless somebody's just literally giving you money. You know what I'm saying? Like, so tell me about you have a concept that you like to talk about, which is a yo-yo business. Can you kind of walk us through that real quick? I think I have an
Sure.
idea, but I wanted to kind of talk about that. Well, real
Yeah.
quick,
Mhm.
now that Ryan's got the page up, can you tell where's your conference based?
It's virtual. Yeah. So we've
Oh,
got
cool.
clients in probably 100 different countries,
Okay.
right? And so we want to offer it in a way that's inexpensive and
Hmm.
allows everyone who's ever worked with us before to really be a part of it and to get a refresher
Okay.
and yeah, to fix their business. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess this is live stream. So right now we have a 50% off for early registrants,
Hmm.
and it's going to be at the end of March. So yeah, Sam
Fantastic.
Carpenter is going to be there as well, the author of the book, and so he always draws a big crowd in terms of people who want to, hear the latest systems thinking from the owner and author himself, Sam Carpenter. So, yeah, it's going to be a really good event. It's going to be full day, all virtual, breakout sessions, and should be some fun.
Man, I've got calls that afternoon, but in the morning I will be on.
Yeah,
Definitely want to check that out. Sounds awesome.
cool. Yeah, I'd love to have you there. So yeah, we put it on every year because again, it's one of those things where people they get super excited about it. They read the book. They're I'm going to do this. They start to build some systems for the business, and then a fire breaks out, an employee leaves, a new vendor, you
Mhm.
know, um, cuts ties with them, whatever it might be, and lose track of it, and then they come back and they're like, oh yeah, really, I still need to get that done,
Yeah.
and they're still in this nightmare. So we want them to know that, um, once you change the way you think, there is work to be done, um, and you just don't want to lose momentum. And Sam refers to it as building assets to build freedom, and it's one brick at a time. And so you do have to actually build out these assets of your business, but they do last when you build them. And so that's kind of the idea. And he details in his book about one system he built, which was you know decades ago, but it was the way to deposit a check, like a physical check would come in the mail, like how to actually deposit it.
Mhm.
And because back then, this is maybe 2.5 decades ago, he was going to the bank and like physically depositing checks. Now, of course, there's ways to automate that now. But the point is he documented a system, handed it to someone else on his team, and
Mhm.
instead of spending 2 hours a week depositing checks, someone else did it, and he got 2 hours of his life back every week. And he had the simplicity of knowing that this is going to be done right consistently the same way every time
Yeah.
because now it's written down. Um, yeah, so that's what the event's about.
No, I love it. And going back to the yo-yo business, you kind of described it a little bit there, where all right, we have this idea, we semi-implement it, you know what I mean, and
Mhm.
then somebody leaves, and now we don't have the person that was responsible for it anymore, and now we got to train somebody new on it, but
Mhm.
everybody has their version of that
Mhm.
system. You know what I'm saying? So I'm assuming the yo-yo has to do with that.
A little bit,
Mhm.
but I'll take a different direction. And you probably see this as a as a sales trainer and sales coach, is that a lot of small businesses they want to grow, but
Mhm.
they hit a plateau, and the way you know they're on a plateau is because they're yo-yoing. They're kind of stuck on a string. They're never getting any farther than that string's going to allow them, and so they'll be at a kind of a low point. So sales are low. We need to drive more sales. They'll feel that tension, and so they'll get out there, they'll do business development, outside sales, call previous customers, and they'll drive some more sales, so the sales will go up. But then all of a
Mhm.
sudden they're like, well, we need to fulfill on these orders, we need to actually
Yeah.
do this work. And so they stop selling, they stop marketing, they stop doing outside sales, and they try to actually deliver on that work. And so the next 3 months, 6 months is all about delivery, but then it starts going back down, and then they're like, whoa, we don't have our pipelines dried up, we've got to
Yeah.
make some sales. And they're just constantly yo-yoing. They're not going anywhere. The company's just staying, essentially it's a flat line, but they don't see it because it's going up and down, but it's really not going anywhere. And so when I see a company that's stayed about the same size over a long period of time, and I review their financials, then I'm like, well, I think it's time for a deep look at the strategy of this business and where is it actually going,
Mhm.
and is the infrastructure set up so you actually can get anywhere, or the way you set up your team, the way you set up your systems, the way you set up your pricing, really everything, is it set up to just be static? And oftentimes companies they're just not even aware of that because they never even thought about how to build their business to grow. The business has just been built to pay them enough to survive and pay their team enough. And the strategy is more about how do I get paid enough to make everyone happy. And when
Mhm.
you're in a company like that, subconsciously, you and your team are never actually trying to sell more because then you'd be more busy. So we don't want to sell more. And so really, it's just trying to keep that equilibrium. And so we try to help people know, like, you can cut the string, you actually, the sky is the limit, but you do need to shift the way you think, and you need to shift your strategy. And then of course you need to shift your systems.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of the yo-yo right now because I went full-time consulting January 1st.
Oh,
And of
okay.
course, brought on 7 clients, 6 figures in consulting fees and everything, and then started fulfilling and then not filling my pipeline. And I know all this stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is literally what I teach clients. And it's figuring out, okay, like, how do I create a cadence throughout the week that, and one of the things I'm doing is 30 minutes of prospecting 3 times a week.
Mhm.
And then of course we're heavy social media.
Mhm.
So what I realized is, okay, the cadence of my social media is like value, document, family, value, and then like maybe a hook,
Mhm.
6 or 7 posts in, which is like that needs to be a little more apparent throughout, that if somebody new comes to my page, they see, well, at the top of the page, I have an offer. And then 3 posts later, I have some type of guiding you to an offer or some type of lead generation tool, whatever the case is. And so because I don't have those systems in place though, the pipeline dried up, you know what I mean? And so, which it isn't a huge deal because, the fulfillment systems are still being created too,
Mhm.
so it's like, I don't want to overdo it and then not have the systems in place to execute. Right. But,
Yeah, definitely. So as consultants, and I've sold consulting a lot of different ways over the
right.
years. I mean, there are ways to package it into inexpensive trainings. There are ways to package into group trainings. There's ways to package it into live events. There's a lot of ways to package consulting. But I mean, right now, like, this is one of my funnels: going on great
Right.
podcasts, having a chance to meet your audience, and
Mhm.
then, but it's a very simple funnel. They go to our website, WTSenterprises.com,
Mhm.
and then they schedule a call with me, and then I start working with them. Right? It's a very, very simple funnel, and we found that different buyers react better to different funnels,
Mhm.
right? And this could be different for your business, but at least for our business, if we previously focused a lot on social media,
Mhm.
and so we would have, and again, I'm not an expert in social media, but we'd have a lot of people following or liking or sharing, or whatever it might be, a lot
Yeah.
of eyeballs. And those people tended to be most interested in the lower price offers,
Mhm.
lowest price products, maybe a couple $1,000s or less.
Yeah.
And what happened is they weren't the kind of people who were going to do larger consulting engagements.
Mhm.
And and we had to do a lot of marketing to get them in there. Whereas people who are interested in working one-on-one, interested in actually having a deeper relationship
Yeah.
and having that coaching, they're more willing to spend, 50, 100, $200,000 with us.
Okay.
But they want to hear from me, and they want
Yeah.
to talk to me, and they want me to customize a solution for them. And so, they don't even care if we're on social media. So it's a different kind of buyer,
Mhm.
with a different kind of process. And so we wanted to make sure that our process met our ideal buyers.
Mhm.
And so sometimes it means simplicity. Sometimes it means less,
Yeah.
right? Like, I just had a client sign up to work with me a few weeks ago, and she submitted a podcast. She owns a $10 million a year business.
Mhm.
Um, it does like construction signage and striping for like road work,
Yeah.
of all things. And she's like, I saw you on a podcast. So I scheduled a discovery call. It's a good fit in terms of what they
Mhm.
want to do to grow their business.
Yeah.
And that's it. So I think that sometimes the simplicity of funnels, because the more steps you have, someone has to go through, the more you lose them along the way, and the
Yeah.
more money you have to spend to try to get them to the finish line. And so
Mm.
we always try to, when we're working with clients, is how do we shorten the distance from acknowledging that you exist to buying, and if we can make that happen in 24 hours instead of 2 years,
Yeah.
2 years of social media, we want to do that, right? And so however we can make that happen, that's our goal, and we try to help our clients see that as well in terms of what they're trying to achieve. Um, but anyway, so hopefully for those who are doing a lot of social media, hopefully that gives them a different perspective on how to actually translate eyeballs to money.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, I think what you'll find is when they go looking for you, they typically have a problem. You know what I'm saying? versus like social media is more of a passive, like, hey, I know Doug exists, you know what I mean? And I know this is something I might need to do, but I'm not crazy motivated to do it right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
It's,
Well, and people who've been watching me long enough know that I'm not that exciting. I'm not that good looking. I'm not that much fun. I'm not very funny either. So like me on social media is kind of boring. Like there's better options, right? There's a lot of better options in terms of like enjoying yourself. So if you want to enjoy yourself, don't look for me on social media because it's not going to be any fun. So I really am saying, but if you want to fix your business, then we should just talk, right? And I'm sure you can find me. I've probably been on a couple hundred podcasts, so there's other stories that are more interesting than what we're sharing right now. But the point is, stories will only take you so far. Inspiration will only take you so far. Motivation will only take you so far. And those are all good things. And people need those things. They need inspiration. They need creative thinking. But that's just not the arena we play in. And so we've realized that social media is not a great arena to entice somebody because we don't have any exciting hooks.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what's next for you guys in y'all's business? What's next for WTS?
Yeah, well, the next thing, of course, the annual event, working with clients. I really do love what I do. So always getting new clients is great for me. So if you're watching this, you're like, hey, I want to work with Josh. You go ahead and reach me and we can do that. The other thing is certifying consultants. I still certify consultants. So those who,
Fantastic.
they read the book, work the system, they say, yeah, I want to be a certified consultant. Then I do that as well. And Sam Carpenter, the author, he's still putting out videos every week about systems thinking and how to, reflect on what to do with your personal life, your energy, your time, your family, and how this new way of looking at the world can really fix a lot of problems in life.
I love that. I can't wait to hear from him on the conference. I'm excited. Is he gonna speak in the morning or just in the...
He's going to do a morning session. He's also going to do a lunch session. So a lot of people have been followers of him for over 10 years. And so they like the opportunity for just a Q&A session. So we always give a Q&A with the author during lunchtime. And so who knows what people are going to ask, but he's open for anything.
Awesome. I mean, and that's where the real magic happens, is in the Q&A. I love Q&A sessions because they're specific to that person. But what ends up happening is the 10 people around them have the same problem. You know what I mean? They were just too afraid to ask.
Exactly. Yeah. And business owners, they all relate. I mean, they all have the same issues, whether it's employee issues or family issues or running out of time or customer service. They all have the same issues. And so Sam does a really good job of kind of taking one layer above or one layer deeper in terms of how to actually address it and then how to fundamentally shift the way to solve that problem, but then a whole host of problems in your business.
No, I love it. Okay, so I ask this of every one of my guests at the end of the podcast, and it's a question that's important to me, and I actually do a talk on this, and I love to hear everybody's answers because they're so diverse, but they typically center around one thing. So the question is, what does legacy mean to you, and what legacy do you want to leave behind?
Yeah, legacy. Okay, well, I'm a Christian, so eternity matters to me. And so making sure that, whatever I do glorifies God. And so that's number one. And then making sure that what I do is going to help my kids. We got 4 kids. And so I'm always thinking about how do I work and lead in a way that's going to impact them so that they can carry the legacy on. So that's probably the way I define it.
Oh, I love it. Well, Josh, I appreciate your time today. Thanks for connecting with us and jumping on the podcast, introducing us to the Work the System book, as well as the WTS conference coming up here in a couple of weeks. I'm excited to see that. And I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yep. Glad to be here. Thanks, Doug.
All right. Let's get building.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Building Great Sales Teams podcast. We really do appreciate it. As you know, we believe that great leaders build great teams. How do you become a great leader? You learn from the greats. Join us at the $1 Million Mastermind put on by Ryan Stuman in Frisco, Texas, and learn everything that you need to learn to be that great leader. The link will be in the description below. As always, we ask that you like, share, and subscribe wherever you consume podcasts so you can stay up to date with the Building Great Sales Teams podcast. Let's get building.